How's it going, guys? My name's Shane. Welcome back to the Horror Basement and another installment in the classic horror review series. Today, much like the last video where we talked about the vampire bat from 1933, we're going to be talking about another movie that has the word vampire in the title that does not feature an actual vampire of any kind. That, of course, as the title told you, is Atom Age Vampire from 1960. Now, this movie follows our main character, Jeanette, and all of the sources, including the Wikipedia article that gives the plot synopsis, list her as a singer, but it's pretty clear that this girl is a stripper, because in the first scene, she comes into her dressing room and she's half naked and quickly gets dressed to talk to her boyfriend, Pierre, who is a seaman, and he's in the Navy, and he breaks up with her because of her job. So if she was a singer, that wouldn't make sense. So she's a stripper. She's a very pretty young lady, but he's pissed off about her being a stripper, so he breaks up with her and goes back out to sea. And she's so upset by this that she leaves the club and drives away. And of course she's doing the thing that everyone does in old movies, where she's doing this on the steering wheel, which I guess kind of makes sense because she is crying and driving like a maniac, but she would have wrecked way sooner if you actually tried to drive a car like this. But her car wrecks off the road and bursts into flames, which leaves Jeanette completely unharmed once she gets out of the hospital, except for it's a burn of some kind that goes from her cheek down to her neck, which she can essentially cover just by wearing her hair down over that side of her face. But she's very torn up by this. And because I suppose she was the most famous stripper in Italy, which, by the way, this is an Italian production. This version that is included in the DVD set is actually an English dubbing of the original Italian film, which shows because, as with many other dubbed movies, the dialogue is stilted, it sounds like shit, and a lot of the minutia of the plot is lost because they're trying to fit English words into these scenes the best they can. But there is a famous doctor named Alberto Levin, and he works with radiation, and apparently he has two different magical science serums. Derma 25 turns people and animals into monsters, but he believes that Derma 28, his new magic science water that he synthesized from Derma 25, is going to be able to heal Jeanette. So he sends his lab assistant Monique, who is deeply in love with him, out to convince Jeanette to come live at Dr. Levin's house so he can inject her with Derma 28, which of course works and clears up her burn using terrible special effects where they did like the time exposure like they did for the original transformation in the Wolfman, which they use a lot in this movie because as you'll learn later, Dr. Levin turns into a giant lizard monster. So this procedure works, and Jeanette is back to her pretty symmetrical-faced self. But unfortunately, it doesn't work forever, and it comes back, and Dr. Levin happens to be all out of Derma 28. So he needs to get more Derma 25. And now, in reading the plot synopsis for the Italian version of this, in order to do that, he had to kill Japanese people that were exposed to radiation in like the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but that plot element is completely missing from the English dub. He just has to kill people, or kill women specifically, to get more of the no face scar juice for Jeanette, who he is in love with. So he starts by killing Monique because she was ready to go to the cops anyway because she was a woman scorned, because Levin loves Jeanette and not her. So Levin murders Monique, but then as the movie goes on, he needs to continue killing people to keep the treatments going for Jeanette. But he is apparently too much of a pussy to do it himself, despite the fact that he just recently killed his longtime assistant and possible love interest. So he injects himself with Derma 25, which turns him into Lizard Monster Levin. And Lizard Monster Levin apparently does not have any qualms about going out and murdering people. So, of course, Pierre gets back in town, and he's hanging out at this, I guess it'd be more of a burlesque bar than a real strip club. But he's hanging out at the place where Jeanette used to work, and of course, no one has seen Jeanette since she's gotten out of the hospital. So, with the help of some local police officers, he is trying to hunt her down, and in the end ends up breaking into Dr. Levin's house right as Dr. Levin turns into Lizard Monster Guy, or the Atom-aged vampire, for the final time, which I guess it's supposed to be that he's going to remain in his monstrous form forever. But he ends up... Pierre and him have a fight where Pierre is using this technique that you see in a lot of the old horror movies and westerns, where instead of just punching a guy, you like ball your fists up into one big fist and then swing it across and hit the guy in the head, which anytime I see that, I just have to giggle because it's the, you would never see that in a real fight, only in these bad, stagey movie fights. But, so the police end up cornering Dr. Levin and Jeanette, and Dr. Levin, having his back up against the wall, ends up actually getting killed by his gardener, Sasha. Sasha is this, mute character that basically tends to Dr. Levin's garden and also kind of helps him as a handyman, and also is his accomplice in a lot of these, a lot of the murders and a lot of the plot to throw Pierre off the case and all that. But beyond that, he's just a mute character entirely, doesn't speak at all. So the entire movie he's kind of in the background, but not to where he would really need to be mentioned. But Sasha kind of hits him on the back of the head or something, and Dr. Levin dies, and Pierre and Jeanette kiss, and I guess, he's fine with her going back to being a stripper now, so happy ending. This movie is not very good. Like I said, it's a cheap and poorly done dub of a cheap and poorly made Italian sci-fi horror film. So go ahead and skip this one. I would not recommend it. That's going to be it for today's video. Hopefully we don't have... but one more thing. I always seem to forget. Hopefully we do not have any more vampire movies coming up, because I'm burnt out on the vampires that aren't vampires. But as is customary, I'm going to go ahead and pick the next two movies we'll be covering. So let's see. The next classic, in quotation marks, is Killer Shrews from 1959. And Revolt of the Zombies from 1936. That's going to be it for today's video. If you want to see those reviews coming up, and also my next video is actually going to be a review of the original Invisible Man, starring Claude Rains, in anticipation of the new Invisible Man movie coming out later this month. Go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.